¿Qué tal, gente? My name is Rodrigo García. I am the Artistic Director of Teatro Visión and your host for tonight's La Hora del Mitote. Bienvenidos to La Hora del Mitote. We thank you for joining us tonight. La Hora del Mitote se transmite cada viernes a las 7 de la tarde por nuestra página de Facebook y en nuestro canal de YouTube. You can see us on our page on Facebook and YouTube every Friday at 7 p.m. We invite you to participate by sending us your questions and comments, sending us your love. And I would like to start off by acknowledging that we are guests here on the ancestral homeland of the Muwekma people who continue to live and thrive in our local community today. Me gustaría comenzar reconociendo que somos huéspedes aquí en la tierra ancestral del pueblo Muwekma Ohlone que continúa viviendo y prosperando en nuestra comunidad local hoy. So tonight, I'm very delighted to introduce to you a group of powerful women, theater artists, that I've had the pleasure to work with them in the past, and I'm very happy to have them tonight as our guests. They are Viera Whye, Cheryl Scales, and Sharon Moore, and they are members of TABIA African American Theatre Ensemble. Welcome to La Hora del Mitote. How are you tonight?
Bien, gracias.
Gracias. So people want to know about you and to know about TABIA. That is one of the talented ensembles that we have here in San Jose that performs here in the Bay Area. And I see that TABIA means talented in Swahili. And that's probably an overstatement having you talented theater artists here tonight. So why don't we start with you, Viera, as one of the founding members, to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so hola everyone, I am Viera Whye. I am one of the founding members of the San Jose Multicultural Artists Guild, which TABIA is one of the performing arts groups that started with it. And I'm also the producing artistic director for TABIA, and very excited. We celebrated 35 years this past summer. So just incredible when I think of it and say it myself. It's like, what? But do marvelous work. So we joined together as a group, 5 of us, as actors, and a long time ago, and wanted to have a platform to perform. And out of that, we had to do all the administrative. So you learn as in the community as an actor that it's also about business. So to really have a platform, get the funds that we needed and everything associated with that, we formed San Jose Multicultural Artists Guild as an umbrella for our organization. And then Maiko Poetry, Women's Poetry and Drumming Ensemble was part of that. And then Teatro Familia Atzlan is also part of our consortium. So a lot of different things have happened, as you can imagine, over the years, but we've done incredible theater, continue to be really proud of it. Of course, finances is always something we have to focus on and concentrate on, but just really proud of the mighty work that we've done. And as we enter Black History Month, what we want to talk about here tonight is representing our community, universal themes, of course, that cross over to all communities, but really bringing the heart, the celebration, the history, the traditions, the voice of African ancestry folks, and then telling those stories in our community and beyond. So I will stop there for a minute and let Sharon Moore, who's one of our premier actors, and also Cheryl Scales is one of the members and premier actors and a jazz singer of TABIA. And we've known each other long time, at least 30 years. So we have a sisterhood, and we, are our family. So I'll let them introduce themselves and say hello.
Okay, I'm Sharon Moore, and I joined TABIA in 1993. As a matter of fact, I was at a National Black Theater Festival in North Carolina, and met the director of who had been directing the shows, Buddy Butler, who just passed last week. He told me about TABIA, and when I returned home, I got in contact with Viera and my first show was Long Time Since Yesterday. And so I've been in many shows since then and enjoy the sisterhood and the camaraderie. Theater is not my primary job. I was an educator for 38 years and was blessed to be able to retire 7 years ago. And we'll talk about the performance that we will be doing in February a little later.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you. Cheryl.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cheryl Scales, and I've been a part of the arts community in San Jose and the Bay Area for over 30 years. And my experience has been with TABIA. I came here from Alabama, and I stumbled onto Black Theater Workshop. And then it turned into TABIA African American Theatre Ensemble. And I went to many other places, many other theaters that have just gone defunct. And you always come back to that old sturdy TABIA that's putting on some major shows, always the most professional shows, and always traditional, because we have always respected our history, and we have always wanted to entertain through our theater group, and entertain and educate. So thank you for having us.
Thank you, the three of you, for being here. And since Sharon mentioned it, I do want to acknowledge the passing of our dear Buddy Butler. A great artist, but a greater person. We definitely feel his passing, and our condolences are with his family and friends. It's always hard to lose someone, particularly someone that we love and was so loved by all of us. So, we'll
thank you. Yeah, here's to Buddy. We speak your name. Yeah, Buddy directed most of our productions for the past 20 years. I mean, just a whole list of shows and the one that you were in with us a few years ago. And thinking about that, Rodrigo, before it hits home, one of the things that we also do with our theater, you won't see us doing a lot of musicals and just entertaining and song and dance, which is all wonderful. Part of that is those productions cost more money often, but really it's about the messaging. And the show that you were in was about HIV/AIDS, which is near and dear to my heart, to send that message. And we spend a lot of time in educating high school students. So the shows that we select really do have substance and meaning. They're thought-provoking, all of that, but really go beyond just making you feel good. We want to do that. We usually have some humor and add songs and music, but it's really profound messaging in them and bringing our stories to the stage. So not a lot of fluff. We want to make you feel good and educate, but really it's really for you to learn, enjoy.
And I can say that it was a great opportunity for me to be in that show and to meet you and work with all of you. And I agree. I think that we are able to entertain people and make them feel good, but it is also important to remember that our experiences, are in the whole spectrum, and we need to make sure that we also use the tools and the power that we have to bring those stories forward, so people can be more aware of these realities that we live.
Yes.
And particularly, on the topic of HIV/AIDS that has hit Black and Latinx communities very, very hard. And, it is very close to home. And we know that it's not because of who we are, but all the sociocultural factors that surround and the systemic racism that there is in our in our society. So I really appreciate the work that you do.
Yeah,
right.
of course.
Even the commercials that you see about HIV/AIDS, they only have like the Latinx or the African Americans on those commercials that, medicine for HIV. Mm-hmm. And we usually have that conversation. It's just like, it's not just our community, but our community is always targeted.
Exactly. And I think that, and I don't know if you would agree, but right now with COVID, I'm having deja vus. Wouldn't you agree? It feels like, haven't we gone through this already, where our communities are the ones that are just falling, one after the other? And
well, that's what I was going to mention. I've been in several panels talking about COVID, educating ourselves, and they made the correlation between HIV/AIDS. And, of course, if your system is depressed, right, your immune system, then, COVID, if you do get it, right, you can't fight it off as well. And of course, there's more death associated with it. So the numbers in the African American community, especially among Black women, unfortunately are high, right, with new AIDS cases. And then so they become more susceptible to death if they do get COVID. So those things are definitely having a big impact on our communities, the Black and brown communities right now.
Yeah, and they're having right now people to sign a petition for the farm workers. It's like they are feeding us. They should be the first people in line to get shot. And now we have to sign a petition for them to work, to get food on our tables. It's just like, what is wrong with that picture? But it's just been a fight. It's a constant fight. And Grandpa Biden is in there. He's got a lot of Christmas presents in his bag. So we're expecting a lot from him, and rightfully so, because we are the ones that pushed him over that line.
Oh, absolutely. We do need to emphasize that the power of our people to make sure that the hope continues, and that needs to be recognized, and that's a lot of times overlooked. And the credit, it belongs to somebody else, and it's not about just to say we did it. Is to recognize how much it takes, and how much power we can have.
That's right.
And recognize that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting that, everything is so political these days. And I was going to say, it's interesting, we've gotten into a political kind of conversation, but we're all older. And, when I entered into theater, in the 70s, it was about political theater, right? The social unrest. So we find ourselves back to that, right? So theater as a political statement, right? The power of theater, the farm workers, right? When, Adrienne and all of those were using theater, right? So we've used that to have a voice, to bring power to our circumstances. So it's interesting as a listener say, we're having a political conversation, but that's what theater, performance art, the spoken word that young people are using is giving that voice, that platform to the issues, the change that we need to make.
Yes.
I remember Lisa Marina Alvarado, our founding artistic director, one time she was telling me, what the work that we do is an act of resistance, because these stages were not meant to exist for people like us. And so the fact that we are there, it's an act of resistance, and we need to continue to use it to fight for social justice and to amplify those voices that had been silenced by these structures of systemic racism that prevail.
Yes.
And so, speaking of that, since we are in the subject, so last year particularly was a year of a lot of events and changes. And, we have all these protests that were very amplified in the media and took all kinds of directions. But we're big, and it reminded us again about the power of our people. And on top of that, we have this pandemic that continues to impact our communities, Black and Brown communities greatly. So I want to ask you as theater artists, how has this shaped the work that you're doing right now? Or what has been the impact of all these series of events on your current work or your current practice?
Well, of course, as you know, it's been incredible. So as stage artists, right? I've been saying recently, we've become filmmakers, like what you're doing here tonight, right? So we did a show called Front Porch Society in October, actually Halloween. Last year was our first step into this Zoom world, digital platform. So just that mindset, right, of having stage. And so we went through a lot of gyrations to get to where we got, and a beautiful project, very, very proud of it. And it is still posted on Facebook and YouTube. So we can mention that under San Jose Multicultural Artists Guild. Sharon and Cheryl both have prominent parts in it. But it took us a while. Like, we tried this platform, StreamYard, that you're on. We did Zoom, and we have, an editor to come in, right? So it's a whole different world of film, because it's about lighting, right? I mean, all of that, and the right backgrounds. And, you're not as big when you're doing stage, you talk to the world, right? When you're doing film, you talk to yourself. So it's different acting techniques and everything that needs to be used, right? So putting that together, we're still figuring it out, along with a whole lot of other folks. Cheryl sat on a panel with, arts groups around the community, right? Supporting each other, how we can help, and whether we go into a theater, we were going to go into a theater and videotape it and then have that posted. But our actors were still nervous about getting together, so that didn't work. I mean, COVID has put us all in this whole new world. But still wanting to do it, right? Knowing that we need to have a voice and be relevant and be visible. We're figuring it out. We'll talk later. We do have another performance we're going to do for Black History that we've done before. But it's a whole different mindset, which I'm excited about, to be honest, right? I see myself, it's like, this is pretty cool, and wanting to know more about film. I mean, even when COVID goes away, this has given us a whole nother avenue, right? Venue. And then you can have people across the United States, the world, right, see you, where we weren't able to do that. If we're bringing people to the theater that weren't able to see our work. So we had folks throughout the country that hadn't seen us before, perform. So that's exciting. Lots of different elements to it. The social unrest, everything that's happened, we know with Black Lives Matter, has been so emotional, right, for everyone, and then being stuck in your home. So everybody's dealing with these mental health issues, and, there's a platform for that. And I think theater, performance art, again, is another, great platform to be able to express that. I mean, what else is there, right, to really tell those stories and come together in some writings. We have the lady that wrote the play that we did has wrote this short little 10-minute performance about COVID, and she wants me to produce it. But it's just like one of our conversations when we get on Zoom, it's like, you better be careful. You shouldn't be going to the store. You're wearing your mask. And so, there's kind of the fun stuff that's come up with it, but the reality of it, right, is just the depth around it, right, the sickness, and no telling if one person gets it and they get well and the next person's dead in a week. So there will be lots more stories to be told, I think, through film and theater about what's happened in the past year and a half when we get there.
The thing I miss about it, I enjoyed that piece, and especially the piece that we did, but I miss the connection with the audience. That was really prevalent. Me missing that, and the talk backs, and greeting the audience afterwards. So that's the piece that I missed. And
it took a while for that to transition, right? Because you're waiting, for the laughter, or you say something and it's like, there should be a response there, so it takes a while for you to have that mind shift, and we're still working on it, right?
So, I think a lot of us theater makers that we had to cancel all the projects that we had in mind for our stage productions, and some of us do workshops in addition, etc. And we had to adapt to what we had. Right. So let me ask you, what have you learned about theater that you didn't know before, if anything? What has this experience brought to you that you didn't know, or that you didn't practice?
Well, I'll let Cheryl speak, but as I mentioned, just the whole concept of it's film. We can say it's theater, but these are elements we're hiring production managers and editors. So they're coming in and taking our recordings, or us in these boxes, right, is going to an MP file, and then someone is taking that and splicing in music and other images. And so then you have this little film, right, that you come up with. So taking theater where we wouldn't have tried, the things that we're doing now, we wouldn't have done. I wouldn't have done, right? So just learning, being more innovative, and that there are different elements, because we've talked about, for years that you've been around, we're getting money from Adobe and so forth, and they wanted you to use their software, right? But we weren't doing those kind of images and bringing the digital into our work. We were stage actors, right? Very pure. So we've learned now that, it can be done, and that we should probably bring those into a new generation that's used to this platform more than any other, right? That the stage is very traditional. So it's opened our minds to a lot more possibilities and things we need to do to stay relevant and contemporary. So
yeah.
Cheryl, you have something to add?
I agree. I like the idea that we could reach out, and I don't think that it's going to necessarily go back to the way it used to be, because we have found different ways that I guess they call it hybrid. So we'll still continue to do the theater, and for the people that won't feel comfortable doing the theater, they could also stream it. So that is pretty new. And to add, we have always been a people that have done, necessity has always been the mother of invention for us. So we have, as we always say, we have always made a way out of no way. So this has been no fear to us. It's mostly fear to people that has always had the world at their feet, the silver spoon in their mouth. So yeah, they're freaking out and frantic. Us, we're like, oh, this is great. This is something new. And the show must go on. What's next?
But we still need finances to do the shows.
Yes, true. True, we do. And then we don't have to spend so much money right now, but it's all about it, and they are being pretty fair with the COVID relief funds. So the funds have been coming in, but it's still always about more money. And we don't have the numbers here in San Jose like we used to.
But it costs for production. So where we didn't have to pay for that in the stage, we still have to pay for that for the show to be produced and all of that. So we still need those funds. And if we were in the theater, as people were walking out, they could put money in the buckets. Well, we can't do that on live stream. We can have a button that says donate, but usually people will be more apt to donate in person. After they've seen a show, they may go by make donations. So I think,
yeah, it's a lot. It's a whole different skill, right? Hiring those production folks, we need to bring in lighting experts, right? And the timing and all of that. So there's costs associated with different skills that we're bringing in and expertise that we need to develop.
And we need, the technology of it all. Like my laptop is not up to par, so I can't do virtual backgrounds or do this or do that or put a green. I could put a green screen behind me, but all of those you have to take into effect. Some people only are working on iPads, so
And something to highlight here in regards to funding that I always like to emphasize, it's one, the importance to recognize that theater artists are also part of an essential force in the community. That it is, art is so intrinsic of our lives that it is important to recognize that. I mean, during the shelter-in-place order, we had all these people just going to Netflix and all these places to consume some form of theater and the work that stage artists put together and production, without probably realizing what it takes, and probably also not realizing how many people in our business are out of job right now.
Yes.
Without insurance, without any other qualifications to access and to survive. And that is very critical. Very critical. Our artists do not have the same access that other professions have. And it is important to recognize. So, a message to the community is, please, support the work of theater artists, that we are doing everything in our power to continue doing what we love, for the love of the work that we do.
Right.
And on the other hand is to also recognize that we need to make institutions accountable for the funding, foundations, funding companies like ours. There are not these major mainstream companies, and that it is important that the wealth is dispersed in an equitable way. And that is very important to recognize, because a lot of our communities, particularly companies that have a very specific cultural approach, do not get the same funding that mainstream white American theater companies have. And it is important to raise that, because again, this is part of this systemic racism in our community, and that we need to call it out.
Yeah, but we are a force, and we need to act as a force, because we have to go in numbers. We seem to be still divided amongst each other here, just in this area. And that Silicon Valley is not an area for arts. It really is all about engineering and technology. So we just fight against the devil, because it's just like, people want it. Damn if you do, damn if you don't. But people want it. And we have to fight together. We have to stick together and fight together. So mainstream, I guess, white America will hear us.
Yes.
So if we are a force, that means our community, our people of color community, have to stick together.
And my concern is that funds are being taken away from the arts in the schools. And so that's a big problem. You have your sports program, but your arts program, your drama, your theater, your music, your dance.
Yes.
So we need to fight for those children, for that generation to be included in the arts.
Absolutely.
In school, you know, they can do it outside of school, but some parents cannot afford to send their children to different theater workshops or dance classes. So we need to bring all of that back into the school. And that takes money.
Yes.
That's right. Well, this is an interesting conversation, and we definitely want to continue. But I want to just take a moment to recognize folks who are joining us tonight in La Hora del Mitote here on our Facebook and our YouTube channels. La Hora del Mitote is on every Friday at 7 p.m. and we have different guests that we have conversations with. And we invite you to make comments, to send us your questions, to send us, your love. And tonight we are with members of TABIA Theater, and they are Sharon Moore, Cheryl Scales, and Viera Whye. So continue with the conversation. Now, switching it a little bit. So February is Black History Month. And I wanted to ask you, what does Black History Month means to you as a theater artist?
Go, Cheryl.
Why are you all laughing?
Because we celebrate Black History 365 days.
Right.
I know.
It's not a month for me. It's 365 days a year. The month is for everybody else who chooses to learn about our culture. So that's
only why we always discuss that. But it is Black History. We are appreciative. But right now I'm in the middle of writing a blues play, and it's taking me going to take me 28 days to just talk about the blues alone. So I respect that 28 days, but that's not even a fraction of what we are. And what I would like for us to start doing during Black History Month is rewriting history. It's about time. Taking down statues is not enough. Who we are, we have it. If you think that the Colonel is responsible for Kentucky Fried Chicken, you better go recognize. No, he took that from a Black woman's recipe. So what I need to tell you guys is we are inventors of everything, and it needs to be known. And our children need to know that so they could have something. They have role models, and they will have something to grow up and be proud of. So Black history is just not water under the bridge. Right now, it's good that we have it, but we still, that same force that you're talking about, that force needs to go out there and make something happen during those 28 days.
Well, and Rodrigo, it always hasn't been. It used to be a week. Carter G. Woodson's organization came up with Negro History Week in 1915 because there was, he felt that, or his committee felt that people didn't know enough about Negro history. And in, I believe, 1926, I may be getting the date wrong. I'm thinking about from when I was teaching. 1926, I believe. That's when
you were teaching in 1926.
No, I'm thinking when I was teaching. I'm thinking of these dates. I'm trying to remember these dates from when I was teaching social studies.
I know.
Okay, so don't take me up on the dates. But it was maybe 9 or 10 years later, 11 years later, that it actually became Negro History Week, and that's when the historic Black colleges started practicing or having those classes on their campuses. And then I remember when I was graduating from high school in 1970, and I believe it was Black educators and students from Kent State who said, we need a whole month, a week isn't going to work. And they started celebrating at the beginning of January, because I remember my last semester in high school, it was a hoopla that, okay, this is now becoming national, and then, but what bothers me is it wasn't until 1976, I believe it was Ford was president, then he recognized the month as Black History Month. So,
Yeah.
that's how it started. And then every 10 years, somebody does a public law or a presidential proclamation for Black History Month. And it was at that time, I know in 1968, maybe before, we started having Pan-African Studies Department and African Studies departments on college campuses. But like I said, we study it 365 days a year because we live it, and we recognize people in our community. And like Viera was recognized as a Black legend in the community of San Jose. So we do stuff all the time, with the African Film Festival and Black Theater Festival all during the year. It's Black History Month when other cultures could be able to appreciate and learn about our experiences and our achievements. So during this time, and it's a wealth of them online now that are streaming starting February 1st. Well, actually they started last month, and we saw history last week. So, And
we're always writing history, and you're so right. And you're so right. And at the same time, it's, how long do we have to be okay with what is given to us, right? Like somebody decide that, okay, let's dedicate this amount of time for you.
Right.
And a little bit of what Cheryl was saying, recognizing the power that we have and not ask for, but to take what is right.
Yeah.
I read, somebody said, it's not that I want to be more like you. It's just that I don't want to be less. This is not about being more. It's just not being less. And that is important. So what is TABIA doing during this month or in the framework?
Yeah, so listening, so a few things that came to mind, and way back we were talking, I did want to point out some of our history, the connection we have with the Mexican Heritage Plaza. The whole Black and Brown communities, many people talk about that, but San Jose Multicultural Artists Guild, Teatro Visión was happening as a plaza. We were one of the arts groups that were part of the founding of that, 1999. We were part of the whole planning at the plaza. We used the theater. We were one of the residence arts groups, and really have been an example, a demonstration of the Black and Brown communities coming together through art. And, we do have our divides, within our own communities, and then, Black and Brown with each other. And I think we shine as an example, again, for over 35 years of bringing those communities together and tell their stories. And about Black History Month, when we say we've done it, we have pushed folks out of February. When they contact us, we do a lot of arts education in schools, and everybody, it's good, it's Black History Month to recognize it. But we said, well, we can go into March. We can do this show in April. We can do the Juneteenth show. So just through making those inroads and teaching folks, right, that you can bring this history to students, to your communities, without it being Black History Month. Although it's like our birthday, we should celebrate life every day, but it brings that special attention to it. And gives people, especially on a corporate level, that we can put funds into it, right? We're going to designate, there's Women's Month and Hispanic Month. So it makes them take the time out to really, notice. And then with Facebook, every day, someday it's pizza day or donut day, right? But it brings that focus, right? That's the world we're in, right? From a publicity and promotion. So we have to take advantage of it, right? Because there is so much history. And then not forgetting our own community, young folks that aren't learning it, right, the way that they should, so that we're inserting it. And again, arts is an excellent way to do that, right? Because they don't want to sit in a class and listen to a lecture. But if you do it through dance, through poetry, and bring them in, they can be engaged in it. So with the Black Lives Matter, the money that's out there, the funds, we have an opportunity not to stop the conversation, right? So that, there's an interest in hopefully making our communities better, the inclusion. And, in that world we're in, through arts, through, nonprofits, through the corporations, finally they've woken up. Everybody's having these conversations, right? I mean, with COVID and about race, and it's an opportune time for us to use performance art, theater arts for that. So we can't let those conversations die. I work for a tech company, and I'm infusing and bringing theater every chance I get into the conversation. And if you want to talk about, Black Lives Matter, courageous conversations, shutting that, then theater is a way to do that, and funding artists to do that. Right, through visual. So we are doing, we've done several times a show called From the Eyes of Mary McLeod Bethune. Sharon actually developed it, conceived it when she was teaching her middle school class. It was their project. And so Mary McLeod Bethune, she was a pioneer in civil rights, and she started Bethune-Cookman College. So she takes it from her perspective and talks about historical characters. So Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, and we have those characters come alive through her narration and introducing them. So we're doing that show February 27th. We're working on that now in rehearsals for it, and it will be packaged and put in a nice film video version to be shown on February 27th, I believe at 3 p.m. But you had put our website up a little while ago so they can find out more information there. And then we always do, Cheryl again is a wonderful vocalist, so we add in the music. We want to show some civil rights videos, so all of that coming together will be our Black History show. But we're working on something with the Mosaic. You may have heard of organization. I think they did something with the Plaza a couple of weeks ago, so on a multicultural basis. So we're working on a show with them, bringing those same historical piece, a women's focus, and then unity, bringing communities together. So it'll be 3 parts of that. That will probably be in April. So we have several projects going on that we will continue to work on throughout the year. We have our Girlfriend Appreciation Day, and we're actually going to have a workshop around mental health, focusing on women and their well-being. But in the world we're in right now, we have to do those things. So it will be an entertainment piece, but it will be a workshop of people really coming together and sharing stories. So we are have learned very quickly how to work in this environment. So we're pressing on, like, Cheryl said, figure it out, and we keep moving.
So again, just to remind folks, can they find that information by going to your website at sjmag.org/TABIA? Is that where that would be the best place to go?
Yes, yeah. And it'll be on the banner. So I don't know if we've updated it yet, but we're posting the flyer for that event at sjmag.org. Yes.
Fantastic. We're looking forward to it.
And our donate buttons on there.
Yes, please.
Not big enough. We need it front and center, but yes. So wonderful work. Buddy, going back to Buddy, we started this organization, I think 5 years ago, the Black Legends of Santa Clara Valley, and really giving honor to some of the historians. It's technology. It's in, I think Sharon's uncle was, from a lawyer standpoint, there's legal categories. And, I was blessed to have the award in my name along with David Piper. So it's the Piper Whye Award, and somebody in the arts field gets that award each year and is recognized as a Black legend. And Chike, who is receiving that this year, was very, very prominent in the arts community. So that's big. But having that history, again, the community coming together and saying, we're going to tell our stories and recognize people in the community that are deserving of that.
Fantastic. This is great to hear. There's always reasons for us to celebrate and recognize the struggles that we face, but also allow ourselves to celebrate and not wait for someone to recognize us. We can recognize ourselves. And,
right.
and as you said, we're writing history every single day. So thank you very much. We have a few comments from folks. Fernando Solorio, just want to say hi, everyone. Amanda Rosen, I have noticed that too about the commercials. I think this is in relation to what you mentioned at the beginning, Cheryl.
Yeah, about the HIV. Commercial.
Correct. Jean-Pierre Berber, we are a community that creates unity.
Yes.
Some love by Jean-Pierre. And Amanda says, yes to your blues play, Cheryl. So we're approaching the last quarter of our wonderful plática or wonderful conversation. And I want to ask you, what's in the future for you as theater artists, but also as an ensemble? What can we expect? What are we looking forward to?
Well, do you all want to speak on that?
You're the artistic director.
That's right. You're the artistic director. We need funds to do whatever to move forward. We need funds. Okay, Viera, go.
Well, and we do need our young people, right? Again, we've thrown around 30 years, 35 years, 40 years. So that tells that we're getting older.
Yeah.
So we need to, for our longevity, existence, continue to thrive and survive. We need our youth. We need people, right? There's a lot of passion around the performance, but the stage work is not necessarily where our young people are looking to be, right? They can become overnight, internet sensations, right? So have 1 million followers. So they're not used to putting in the work or the discipline for theater. So really honing out, where the people are that want to come in and have a TABIA. Again, in the 70s, there was so much, let's perform. We're going to tell our stories. We don't have that same kind of energy anymore. So we're mentoring, grooming, extending ourselves to bring in, new talent and energy, and have to trust that it's there, but also to adapt. Maybe TABIA does develop a whole nother, video arts arm, right? And which is about funding, as you know. There's lots of things you can do, but it's about paying people, having the funds to do that. So looking forward to that. Someday I will retire, not soon enough, but really focusing on, we've talked about having a place. If we had even just a small black box theater that we could call our own and not, be dependent on other people and the schedule and all of that would be wonderful. So, and maybe not the distant future, that would be something that we would have. Of course, once you have it, then maintaining it is another story.
Yeah.
So working through that. And then we've been, through Cheryl, Cultural Odyssey, we've been connecting, creating a stronger consortium with other theater groups, Black theater groups throughout the Bay. So we're going to continue to build on that. They just started a Black Seed where they're bringing together 150 Black theaters throughout the company. I believe the Mellon Foundation gave $300 million, or don't quote me on the number, but to really identify Black theaters, to have a stronger voice, to bring those together. And we weren't selected as the ongoing, but we did get a grant, a seed grant from them. So we've been recognized throughout the country as a Black theater. So adding us, that national attention, that credibility is another pillar that we hope to continue to build on. So lots of things in the works, but really about our community and having these conversations with you, our Hispanic Latinx brothers and sisters and, Native Americans, that we need to combine our efforts, right? Together we have an even stronger voice, and that we can feel comfortable in our communities. That unity isn't just a word, right? And I feel very proud of the work that we have really continued to do that. We walk the walk, it's just not about the talk. And being willing to push back, right? We're not a women's group, I have to say, as it comes across like that.
Right.
We have had men are part of it, and of course, two of our founders, Rudy and Robert, are men, but the men come and go. I just tease that they're a little more fickle, right? But very strong, women, and that we are open to bringing in all different types of talents too. So we have to be more open-minded, right? Have a growth mindset, as they say, that maybe, we infuse different cultures into what we're doing also. So.
Viera, and if I may, Amanda Rosson has a question that I think it's in it's right at that moment where you finish your sentence. She says 2020 was the 100th anniversary for women's right to vote. This was not a right that happened for all women, only white women. Mm-hmm. Have you or are you working on anything that will teach about this?
Yeah, really good question. So part of the piece that we're doing with the Mosaic is on women's suffrage. And we will have voices from, the Native American and Latinx community be part of that. But really calling that out, the history, is a good suggestion. And, maybe we find a way to really put that piece of education in, right? And, I do diversity and inclusion is my job that I do in the high-tech world. So very connected to this. And, we talk about terms like the term grandfather, and people use that you're grandfathered in, there was a contract, so you'll get the old one. But really where that term comes from, right, was really a term that was used to keep Black folks voting. Because if your grandfather voted, then it let, white folks who didn't have the education, the rules they put around to keep Black folks from voting, also would have kept white folks from voting. So they made, this legislation that, well, if your grandfather voted, then you were able to vote. So folks were grandfathered and given the opportunity to vote to keep Black folks from it. So it's similar to, what was Andrea is saying here, right? Even though, their rights to vote was given to women, it wasn't to all women, right? We still had to fight, right, to be able to vote Blacks as people. So yes, those assumptions and things that are hidden in our history that never were taught to us, right, in elementary school, we need to keep bringing out. So yeah, we have that, Sharon wrote this piece, we are doing our own writing. Like Cheryl says, she's writing a play. We write a lot of our own poetry. So that's another piece that we're still developing, and we don't have to ask people for their rights, right, to do what we're doing, especially using film. Yes. Because then you have copyrights and all of that we're dealing with. So that's another thing we have to learn. We've learned in this environment.
And we also
our songs and do stuff because we don't have the rights to them for SAG, right, for film.
That's true. And we also allude to the voting with Mary McLeod, and then Fannie Lou Hamer talks about it in her
piece. Yeah.
Ida B. Wells. So about we didn't have the right to vote and being killed for registering to vote and losing your job if you were registering to vote. So yeah, we allude to that in the piece that we're doing next month.
Fantastic. Cheryl, do you have anything to add in terms of what's in the future for you?
Well, right now I'm with a blues band, Legally Blue, and like I said, I am writing. I'm writing this blues play because I really didn't know that much about blues. Our generation skipped blues, and blues have everything to do with anything about American popular music. And it's never gotten the credit. And I didn't understand it until just the other day. I was listening to B.B. King, and I realized that, excuse my language, but this is mostly for African Americans, but Negroes became African Americans and blues became poor man's music. How did that get confused? I don't know. So our history is so big. We are a part of every piece of fabric. Even the people that stormed the Capitol were storming a place that slaves built. Mm-hmm. So here we are fighting to say, yeah, here I am, here. And I'm just saying, with the force that we have, we need all of us together. We need people of color to come together, and I can't stress it enough. So, like you said, we don't have to ask to come to the table. We bring our own table.
That's right. That's right. Amen.
So, yeah, we're just out there to teach.
So what would you see happening, as an opportunity to bring those voices together?
What do I see with us coming? I see us going to places like Google, Twitter, Zoom. They're all in our faces. They're staring at us and saying, okay, I'm just getting your money. I'm sucking up everything you got, but yet I'm not giving half of it back. Okay, so what about what happened to GameStop? Everybody can be tricked. But we need to get together and go to our force, need to connect to that force and show them the importance of the whole spectrum.
That's right.
I think it's happening. It's happening in some ways, as I said, just through the diversity and inclusion work, especially where we are, right, in the Silicon Valley and the tech. So there are diversity index where several of the companies are getting together and have become much more political and social. So, there was a time you didn't discuss politics at work. You didn't discuss race. And all of that pendulum has swung, right? So as they become and put their money where their mouth is, right? Apple's investing millions of dollars, right? And training and bringing that together communities and going to Atlanta to bring engineers, right, of color, Black and brown folks. So, you see they have the means, the resources to make those things happen on a large scale. But Rodrigo, I looked on, the little, what can we do? Who are our leaders? We don't have a Martin Luther King. We don't have, one leader, but within our communities, there are leaders. And then each of us being a leader. So every time, right, this simple broadcast you're having is introducing folks, right, of Latinx heritage to the African American community that may not have known that we existed, right? So we have to keep, having that cross-cultural conversations, and that we, I wrote a poem, we are more like than not.
Yes.
So we want to celebrate our differences, right? Our music, our culture, our food, and embrace that. But we also need to know the human aspect, that we all do connect in a very human way and are more like than not. And then taking that as a force, right, to demand, equity for each other, right, through education and health and all of that. So the more we come together to do that. And it starts with these conversations. It's all in telling our stories and learning about each other. So I think that's how we do it. And then, you build momentum from that.
What a beautiful, way that you put it. Sharon.
Yes.
Anything that you want to add to this?
No, all of the I concur with everything that was said. I do want to add that just a little bit about things that other cultures can do for Black History Month. First of all, watch our production. There are productions on every aspect there. Lula Washington in Los Angeles is given a Rhythm in Black for dance. So if you're interested in dancing, it's free registration. The St. Louis County Library is having concerts and poetry and drawing workshops and performances by the St. Louis Black Repertory Company. PBS is doing This Is Our Story about the Black church. So that can be watched. And like I said, and Chike's group is doing African Cinema Cafe, I believe it's called. And then it's the Pan-African Film Festival in LA. So there's a wealth of knowledge out there where people can learn about our culture in dance, in music, in literature, in writing, in every aspect, in sports. So
yeah.
And once again, watch Tabia's performance.
Yeah. But we do need to know about each other, more about each other's cultures.
And I think something that really resonates to me of what all of you said is Black History Month is a great opportunity to learn about Black history. However, challenge yourself to go beyond this 28-day because
Right.
history has been written every single day, and there's not enough time in the year to
That's right.
learn about
Yes.
the history that has already been written.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think this is an important message to everyone that yes, support all the events possible during Black History Month, but there is history happening beyond this month, and we
Yes.
should continue supporting each other, learning from each other, making space for our own stories that
Yes.
build this interconnected web that we are all a part of.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very
So,
much. And the last comment, Diane, so good to see you.
Oh, hi, Diane.
Thank you so much. I think this has been a wonderful evening.
Yeah.
You have no idea how my heart feels right now, or having the
Rodrigo.
opportunity to share this space with you all. And I know that there will be a time where we will see each other and hug again.
Yeah.
But in the
Yes.
meantime,
We may do this on a more regular basis, right? Keep sharing with our different communities. So
Yeah.
you to our community. So,
there's no reason why not. I think
but thank you for the opportunity too.
Yes. Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much once again, Viera Whye, Sharon Moore, and Cheryl Scales, our friends from TABIA African American Theatre Ensemble. And to all of you who were with us tonight in La Hora del Mitote, we'll see you next week, Friday at 7 p.m. Muchas gracias y buenas noches.
Buenas
Hasta
noches.
Bye. Take
Stay
care.
well, everyone.
Yes.
Well.